All right. Well, as everyone's starting to join us, people are coming in from the waiting room now, and we've got a very full agenda with an amazing cast of characters today. For those of you who don't know, I'm Craig McAtee, Executive Director and CEO of the National Coalition of Advanced Technology Centers. And our four pillars are all about the future of work, Industry 4.0, which is a big piece of that today with AI and all that we do. Second pillar is all about work-based learning coupled with competency-based education and industry-recognized credentials, followed by lifelong learning as our fourth pillar. We are very proud and happy to introduce to a lot of you today, maybe for the first time, one of our longtime strategic partners, Jobspeaker, based out of California. And they brought along a cast of characters who are amazing partners with them and us, including Universal Robots, Google, one of our favorite colleges in the world, College of the Canyons out in California, and a few other great people. So I will leave it to that and introduce the CEO and president of Jobspeaker, Jarlath Carroll. And take it away, Jarlath, and have a good one. I'll follow up at the end with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you to our host, NCATC, as always. I really appreciate it. And looking forward to the discussion today. I'm Jarlath Carroll, I'm CEO and founder of Jobspeaker, and we'll get into a little bit of what we do in a couple of minutes. Just to kind of move us on here as to what our agenda for today. I'll speak for a few minutes just about what it is that we do as the sponsor of this event. And then we'll do quick introductions and kind of jump into the meat of the topic today, starting with Harriet Hampel and then from College of the Canyons, Corey and Andrew from Universal Robots, and Pratap from Google. And then we'll have our own expert and MC for today, Richard Varn, kind of doing a roundup of the topic. So without further ado, I'll jump right in. So, like I said, I'm Jarlath, and what we focus on is thinking about tomorrow, thinking about students and employers and employees and how the world of work is going to change with AI. So, rather than empowering AI to take over our jobs, we are thinking about how we can use AI to empower people to take control of their careers. So don't interpret this the wrong way. AI is cool, and the advances that we're seeing today and going to discuss today are going to be amazing. But we're just at the tipping point of how AI is going to shape our world, and it will. But if we don't pay attention, then we humans, or at least some of us, especially especially knowledge workers, are going to feel the impact of that change in a very real way. Lack of opportunity in the labor market, some of which we're already seeing. So that's why Jobspeaker is building AI to kind of, if you will, fight back against AI that might take your job. And instead of enabling you, and instead enables you to transition into this fast changing landscape on your own terms. Just a quick data point here. Did you know that approximately 80% of people believe that AI is going to change jobs and change the workforce, but only 20% believe it will happen to them. That'll change their job. So with that, what we do is we have built a platform along with partners like College of the Canyons and others to help people understand and help build an ecosystem to connect this world together between employers, industry, educators, and obviously the students and the learners. We've built this over the past several years, and our goal here is to focus on three areas: exploration, learning, and work, to help people understand how they want to pursue, what kind of role they want to pursue, what skills they want to learn as a result, and help them better present themselves in the world of work. And we're using AI to enable learners and workers see these pathways and in this case, build a skills transcript automatically, a use case that Pratap from Google will discuss a little later. We have a full platform to help institutions and employers manage their changing education and workforce needs. And I'll stop right there. Just reach out to us. If you want to build a solution that meets the needs of this changing and evolving workforce. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to Richard, the MC for today. Richard?
Sure. Thank you, Charlotte. So I would have everybody just briefly introduce themselves, and I'll give the audience a little bit of idea about how to get their interaction going. So Charlotte's introduce himself. Harriet, you want to go first? Just to say hi.
Good morning. I'm Harriet Happel, Dean of Career Education, Integrative Learning, and the Employment Center at College of the Canyons in Santa Clarita, California.
Corey and Andrew, you want to introduce yourselves? You're on, Andrew.
Yes. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yep. I'm unmuted now. Good. First one of the day. I'm Andrew Feather. I am a Principal Innovation Research Engineer and head of our perception team at Universal Robots, based in Massachusetts.
Corey?
Corey Adams. I'm the Education Program Manager for North America here at Universal Robots.
Tap? Tap is having a little bit of mic trouble, so I don't know if Tap is a public sector specialist, works with educators, educational institutions, and others at Google.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yep.
Yes. Okay. Hi. Yeah, you already introduced me. I'm a GenAI architect with Google Cloud, and I build GenAI apps for public sector. That is the federal, state, and local governments and universities and education startups.
Great, thanks for tapping. I'm Richard Varn. I work as an advisor to Jobspeaker, and I've been involved with ed tech and working on credentials and education for about 40-some years. Passed as a CIO and a university instructor and other interesting education stuff. I'll share a little bit about that later. And so if you have questions as we go through, please feel free to put them into the chat. I'll keep an eye on the chat and keep a running tally of questions and ideas and suggestions you might have. And we'll come back around toward the end with questions, but we're going to kick off with Harriet, and she is going to talk to you about 10 minutes about her view on this. Harriet, it's all yours.
Well, again, hello, everyone. It's a hot topic here in higher ed. What are we going to do with AI? And we have several different perspectives. From a faculty perspective, there is a very grave concern about how do we keep and sustain and maintain academic integrity. The perception is that AI better equips students to cheat. And so it is an ongoing conversation we have in terms of how we can use the best of AI, realizing that our students do need to have an education with it because it's going to be a prerequisite for employment in this world as we go toward 2030. Our industry partners have concerns with AI because they need guidance. They need to know how to rebuild their internal cultures and create an environment by which they can embrace AI, but also value human-centered work. And it's something that they're very much struggling with. Now, I think what most people don't realize in our world today is that AI seems like something that's still coming out of Hollywood. That it's not a reality. But using the Jobspeaker platform is a great example. Our students are already using AI when they use the Jobspeaker platform because we have tied the skills that they are building in their profiles directly to the curriculum that they're completing. That's all done in the background, and it's done through AI. So I think we have to have more realistic conversations about how many of us are already using AI in far more applications and aspects of our day-to-day lives, and then have the courage to tackle the bigger conversations such as academic integrity. And one of the ways that we can do that is really look at case studies in terms of how are others integrating AI? What are their successes? What are their failures? And how are they going forward? For those of you who are not aware, the state of Mississippi is the first state in our nation to have a statewide initiative in AI for K-12, higher education, industry, and the public and private sectors. They call it the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network, or MAIN, M-A-I-N. If you do not already follow them on LinkedIn, do that today. It is amazing the work that they're doing and just how progressive they are in terms of their application. To date, they are offering free instruction and professional development to instructors, again, K-12 into higher ed. And you can go on to their website, again, Mississippi Artificial Intelligence. There is a QR code there that as an instructor, you can sign up for that. And it also allows those instructors participating to take materials with them to build into their Canvas shell. This is the reality. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, employment for AI and machine learning professionals is estimated to grow by 22% until 2030. That's almost 3 times the rate for all occupations. So it's here, it's not going away. So how do we incorporate it and embrace it? And it's just not in professions like advanced manufacturing, but it's in every spectrum of the world that we live in now. It's in every program of study that we're offering in our higher ed curriculum. So we really have to take a long look at it and really begin to understand how we're going to all have to have a general knowledge of AI in order to even enter the workforce now, because it's so predominant. And so again, I go back to the case studies. There's others, but I really think that the main method is going to be a method that many other states are going to adopt as we take on the challenge of AI. Change is never easy. And so for those of us that are leaders in the prospective fields that we're in, we really do have to encourage others to be open-minded and to embrace it, because people are not going to lose jobs to AI. That is not going to happen. And we have to be firm on that message. They're only going to lose jobs if they don't learn AI. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Harriet. That is a little shorter than that. So I would just pause to see if there's anyone had an immediate question for Harriet. If not, we can move on to our next speaker. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask her right away from her talk that's fresh in your mind? Well, you can keep thinking about those. Okay, so
yeah, I have a question there, Harriet.
Yeah,
I recently saw an article that the instructors themselves are very concerned about AI taking over, both for plagiarism and for the replacing the instructors themselves. What's your thoughts on that?
Yes, well, again, it's the human component. My daughter is a high school teacher here in California, and she teaches advanced placement English as well as dual enrollment English. She did a fascinating experiment with her students in that she had them all, the assignment was to write their essay on the document in English Lit that they were all reading using ChatGPT. The students were amazed. They were like, what? You're giving us permission to use ChatGPT? And she said, yes, I want you to write it with ChatGPT. So the students came back, and then she had them do the assessment, because of course they have a matrix of all the points that have to be evident in the essay. And they graded one another's essays. And the students quickly came to the realization that what was missing was the human point of view. And so she helped the students discover for themselves where AI can be advantageous and where AI falls short. And it really is in that human-centered approach. And so for any faculty member, I would recommend think about what is the human component that you bring to the instruction in the classroom, because AI will never be able to replace that. And, it's been amazing. She has not had one case of plagiarism now with AI since she did that assignment. So it is now a standard assignment that she does at the beginning of the school year, so that she helps the students discover on their own the power of AI and the power of the instructor.
That was a great question. Thank you. Thanks for asking that. Right. I would just say that my quick answer to that has always been is that if all you do is what AI or a robot or a machine can do, if that's all you're doing, then you should be concerned. And hopefully that is not. And we don't expect that that's all good quality instructors do. And I've been working on instructor quality for some 40 years as well. And that my experience is that there are too many unique values that humans bring to the process to be fully replaced, but that doesn't mean you can't be augmented or what you're doing improved, or some of what you're doing now be supplanted, like assessment or some items of feedback or peer evaluation or things like that can be aided with AI. So, well, let's move on to our next speaker. Corey, you're going to kick it off, I think, and then
Absolutely.
and you're going to introduce Andrew, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Richard, and glad to be here. Super excited. Already love the opening statement about thinking about tomorrow, and Harriet's statement about really kind of having that human-centric focus around AI and utilizing it as more of a tool. I'm really excited, like I said, to be here. I was able to bring Andrew Pether, who's our principal or innovation research engineer here at Universal Robots. That's done a lot with Universal Robots around AI, and also kind of tapping into our recent partnership with NVIDIA on bringing AI into our robotics. So one of the things we really wanted to highlight today is, what you see currently happening in manufacturing, and where you see AI kind of being more of an enabler to help bring down that skill set and that repeatability when it comes to integration. And then at the end of this presentation, when Andrew's done, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we see that within the education space. Kick it right over to you, Andrew.
All right, thanks, Corey. Okay. So yeah, I've been working with Universal Robots for just over 10 years now, and can you go to the next slide, please? And these two images have been in PowerPoint presentations since before I joined the company, I think. On the right, we see kind of a traditional robot automation cell in an automotive factory. It's all robots. There's no people involved. Takes up a huge space, and very little flexibility in that. What we build are called collaborative robots. So you can see on the left side here, we have built-in safety functionality and much more lightweight robots that actually can work together with a person to complete the task. And we kind of this gives you so much flexibility in kind of, as manufacturing has evolved recently, there is a lot more in terms of people wanting bespoke orders. There's a lot more variability in the goods that manufacturers are required to produce. And so that makes the automation challenge harder, because you need to have equipment that is easier to reconfigure. But in everything we do, there is always a human in the loop. We are kind of human-centric. Automation is what we're focused on. And the way that we're looking at AI as well is also, there is always going to be a person working together with the automation solution. And what we want to do with AI is just to make that process easier, to require less configuration from the user. They still have ownership of the solution and what the robot is doing, but all of those minute details that they previously might have had to tune, those can be handled by some of the AI systems. But the challenge that we have with these kind of applications and this sort of deployment scenario is that if you've got a person in the loop, they're not always going to put things down in exactly the same place for the robot, like if it was being passed over from a robot in the previous station might do. So there's a lot more variability in the workspace in this scenario. And kind of the sort of traditional way of programming a robot line by line in script and expecting everything to be exactly where it was when you program the robot is not so feasible anymore. And that's kind of where the AI comes into the configuration to kind of help the robot perceive its environment and understand what is going on around it. Next slide, please. So a lot of industrial robots, a lot of our robots today are also kind of working blind out there in factories around the world. And this does require you to have very fixed kind of jigs and fixtures around kind of the mechanical setup around the robot to make sure everything stays exactly where the robot is expecting it to be. And this is potentially quite expensive and kind of difficult to set up. So what we're trying to do is to remove that blindfold from our robots and allow them to see what's going on around them. Next slide, please. That's challenging. Not a lot of our customers are using vision systems with the robots today because there are cost and complexity kind of challenges associated with that. Managing the cables that go to the cameras, calibrating the camera to the robots, choosing the right lenses, choosing the right light sources, dealing with shiny parts and changing lighting conditions. So it's not easy. We've managed to simplify the process of programming a robot, but integrating with a vision system is still quite difficult today. And this is kind of where the AI can come in and help us with some of this stuff. Next slide, please. So we can take some lessons from the automotive industry here. Most car manufacturers today will have some kind of sensing, some advanced sensing, some kind of perception system in their at least mid-range, high-end kind of vehicles. Lane assist is a great example here, where it just kind of subtly works behind the scenes. It checks out what's going on and it keeps you safe in your car, and kind of a lane assist for robots that just keeps them doing what the user wants them to be doing is a pretty good analogy. So there's a lot of technology being developed for self-driving cars and sensing kind of lane assist and kind of cruise control systems for cars that do object detection and obstacle detection and things like that also can be beneficial for robotics as well. Next slide, please. But with all of this technology in the cars, it just works. You don't expect, if you buy a car with a camera system inside it, that you have to go home and walk around with a checkerboard in your garage every night to make sure that it works properly the next day. That's kind of still where we're at with robot vision systems, and this is the kind of automotive condition where those systems are now is where we need to get to. Next slide, please. And then on the internet giants are analyzing such a huge volume of images and data with AI every day to kind of understand the concept, the context of what's happening in those images, and to gain insights from them and to identify objects and people. There's a lot that we can take away from that as well that helps us with the robotics kind of perception problem. Next slide, please. And we'll see a lot of humanoid robots in the news recently as well. We think it's unlikely that in the near future, the humanoid robot is going to become the default platform for industrial automation. We think there's still a lot that you can do, and it makes more sense to use a single arm manipulator. But the way that these are being programmed, the systems that are being developed in order to take perception data and then train actions based on that, it's a move away from kind of traditionally line by line scripting. You just can't do that with this type of robot. There's too much variation. So we will also have kind of trickle down effects from this way of programming automation that will come down into more general kind of industrial automation as well. Next slide, please. So like we are trying to leverage all of these things happening in the industry to make our products easier to program. And it's likely that from our perspective that the way that we control our own products is going to change with AI becoming more and more integrated. And this is also going to impact how we train people to use our products as well, and what our recommendations would be for kind of training of people who want to work with automation in manufacturing. And Corey, do you want to say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. I thought this was, a great highlight on how, AI is kind of shifting, manufacturing, programming or manufacturing and automation. I think the one thing that we really want to highlight, and Andrew started to touch on it there towards the end, is that the way that we're delivering training right now in the automation space, and we'll say robotics, since that's the term that, that's the training that most people deliver. I think we're really, we're talking about Industry 4.0 and Industry 5.0 and us moving into that next phase. And I can say, you know, looking at AI is really thrusting us into that industry 5.0. And I think when you're looking at the way that we're delivering training in the format of programming robotics or programming automation, you know, I think that's really going to change, kind of like what Andrew was saying, you know, that script coding going line by line, where AI is going to really be more of an enabler. When I look at AI and automation, you know, there's two things that I really look at. One is, you know, there's a skill set, there's a ceiling to this skill set that we're trying to always teach to. You know, a lot of it is product, a lot of it is PLC, robotics, not a lot around the integration aspect. And with adopting AI into our programming language and in our software to really enable users to be able to do more advanced projects, you know, what we're doing is we're working to lower that ceiling of knowledge or skills required to really be successful with automation. So I think it's a very powerful tool. But you know, like Harriet and you know, I think we had a question about, you know, AI taking jobs. You know, if you are in this space, it's not that, you know, your job is going away, but the skills required to do that job are very important, and those are changing. And you know, all of us on here, you know, believe in that lifelong learning path, and you know, being able to say that, you know, we're lifelong learners, you know, we need to show that in implementation by providing them with the appropriate training as well. And I think this is a great way in doing that and helping them be successful with automation.
Perfect timing. Thank you so much for hitting your mark there.
Absolutely.
Your questions, but let's get Pratap in here. Pratap, are you going to be able to go? And here's your slides, and then I'll try to wrap up. Pratap, it's all yours. And wait till Jarlath brings your slides.
Can you hear
up.
me?
Hey, we can hear you. Okay,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome.
There we go.
Thank you. I'm going to be talking about how to. That was a great presentation, Andrew and Corey, and Harriet. And I'm going to be showing how you can use the AI today to for self-improvement or for your own personal educational goals, right? Reaching those goals, and also how we work at Google with the education sector. Next slide, please. The main theme that I'll be going with is the Gemini model. Gemini is the most advanced model from Google. It is now topping the charts for accuracy of predictions, accuracy of responses, and this is what is called a truly multimodal model. Multimodality means not just working with text, but it can also work with images, video, audio, and so on. We're going to be seeing a lot of that today. I have a bunch of demos as well to show you how I use Gemini. Next slide. Okay, this is the Gemini model. Comes in 3 sizes: Ultra, Pro, and Nano. And there's also one more recent version called 1.5 Flash. The reason it's the most scalable model is that it has a very large context size. The context window is the amount of text that you can input to the model before it gives you a response. Now, this used to be fairly small. It used to be about 16,000 and 32,000 tokens. Now, Gemini Flash now blew this up, and it now supports 2 million tokens. One token is about 4 characters, so that's about 8 million characters. What does 8 million characters give you? You can take our entire tax code, federal tax code, and dump it into the Gemini and then ask a question. And it would be able to answer from various different paragraphs or parts. This could also mean that, hey, I can take many of the researchers or people who are in very niche research. That is, usually when they're in research, they are always in a niche, right? It's never broad. And they explain that their entire field can be summarized with about 50 or so research papers. They were able to dump all of that content into Gemini and ask questions. So that is how powerful the long context window helps you. The next slide, please. All right, so I'm going to talk about how AI how I work with the AI in education. I work with universities. I work with education tech startups. like Jobspeaker here. I worked with Richard and Jarlath earlier, and we work with the research labs, universities, and K-12. Next slide. Here are some use cases that are going to be relevant, that are relevant for the education sector. Okay. So there are 3 different use cases that I usually deal with. On the left side, we have the administrative assistants, right? That is the staff. How can AI help? It can help with admissions, registration, enrollment. It can also be used for advertising, and also it can also be used for choice of courses. Right? How do you? So you have universities have a huge catalog of courses, classes, programs, certifications. How do you match that with students? So that is also part of the administrative assistance, including institutional research. In the student support is where we see tutoring. Tutoring was one of the first use cases that came up, and it's a very fairly challenging use case, to be honest. There was some initial success. I think somebody mentioned that earlier there was a concern about whether teachers are going to be replaced. A tutoring use case, one of the earliest ones, it is a fairly challenging use case. These AI tutors cannot replace human tutors with the technology that we have today, right? And so that should help us. But there is a difference. I'm going to explain to you what the difference is. Also, career planning. How do, like, say this is the use case that we worked with Richard and Jobspeaker team. Let's say I want to become, let's say, nurse. What is the career path that I would need to take? What are the courses I need to take to be able to reach this? What are the skill sets that I would need to be able to become a successful nurse, right? So that can be done using AI. Localization as well. Localization includes translation, but also there's also contextualization of the content. The last but not least, faculty. This can become a lab assistant and also a curriculum designer. This is fairly surprising, and it's very popular. Let's say there's a teacher that's going to teach a new course. They can use AI for helping with the curriculum and also even class materials. Let's say you want to prepare worksheets on how the students, let's say you want them to work on the class. Let's say it's a math teacher. They want to have word problems. Now you can easily use AI to create these word problems and give it to students instead of you sitting and manually doing this. So that could also be very useful. There are also newer use cases where we can use AI for grading the answers. That is a very popular use case as well. Next slide. All right, next slide. All right, so here's the physics tutor use case. How would you build a physics tutor use case? Right, the first step is the top blue bar where, hey, you have cloud storage in Google Cloud, and then you drop all the necessary documents in there. This could include books, other reading materials, maybe exams, questions as well, and so on. The second step is to parse these documents and chunk it up and understand and make it easily available for to be able to be accessed by the model. And then what we do is called indexing of the documents, where as soon as you ask a question, you'll be able to quickly tell which document is actually relevant to the question being asked. One of the use cases I worked with early on is to automatically answer multiple choice questions. Automatically create multiple choice questions and automatically answer multiple choice questions. The reason we found this was this is very tricky to answer because when you have options like none of the above, all of the above, and when you have multiple of the answers actually correct, but then you're trying to choose the best option, this is actually quite a difficult problem to solve, and we were able to solve using Gemini. And it also provides you the reasoning. The last part is the model access. That is, now that you have the documents that are chunked up and ready to be consumed, now the model is given access to these documents, and then you give the interface to the students. The students will be able to ask questions and get the answers that they need. This is very, very, very useful compared to having just a website where you have the data. This reduces the distance between the eager student and the content. I'm going to stress the word eager student or the determined student. Okay, that's a term I'm going to continue to use because that makes all the difference. Okay, next slide. Okay, here's a physics homework assistant where you have cloud storage, you have the books, quizzes, and lectures, and then you have vector store. It's called Vertex, is the AI platform where on GCP. And then once you have that, and then you add your extensions, you would be able to create these homework assistants that can help you with homework. This is for the students. That is, this is fairly accepted, where AI is just getting to extract the data that's in the book or in the data to help the students get to the part where they can find the content. This is not helping answer the question that in the assignment itself, but it's just a quick retrieval method that the student can use. Okay, next slide. All right, so I'm gonna stop talking and show you some demos. I'm going to share my screen if that is okay. Richard, can I share my screen now?
Craig, I think, has the controls. I believe you have set him up for that, Craig, I think. We can share.
You can share.
Go ahead, hit share.
It says disable share, cannot share screen while other participant is also sharing.
Okay, so Jarlath, will you stop sharing? So there you go. There we go. Thanks.
Yep, excellent. Thank you. So one of the things that I really like and I use, can you see my screen? Richard, can you see my screen?
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes, we can see it.
Okay, got it, cool. One of the things that I really like is a service called Notebook LM. I'm going to type that name here, notebooklm.google.com. You can use it today. If you have a Google Gmail account, you can use this today. As you can see, this is a dark themed one. What this does is, this is a free service. I can go and add sources. So what I'm doing is, let's say I have some documents that I want to, the reason is I have too many papers that I need to read because there's this field of GenAI is changing rapidly. And I'm always finding it like 10-page papers. I don't understand, to be honest, I don't understand the newest papers. There's something called Mamba technology in transformers, and then there's Black Mamba. I don't understand these, and I want somebody to teach me like I'm as a high schooler, right? Because sometimes I am at that level because there's like sudden jumps and changes. So what I do is I go here and I add my documents. I can add PDF documents. I can even add a website URL. It can be a Wikipedia page because I don't have time to read websites anymore. This is like too much content, right? I want this to be personalized. So what I do is I can add PDF documents, and here is a couple of PDFs. So these are two important papers, attention paper and palm paper. That is, attention is all you need is the Holy Grail paper that changed everything. It was published about 6 years ago. It said like the attention mechanism is going to improve the model performance. Okay, and I've already added them here. I know I've selected them. You can also add your Google Drive if you have the files in there. And I can ask the question, summarize the attention is all you need paper. It's going to take a little bit of time, and it's going to give me a summary. Now this summary is being done in real time. I can see that I have chosen multiple documents. I do not choose just one document, but the question is in the context of the documents that I have selected, right? So here is the summary of the attention paper. The attention paper, all you need. Introduce the transformer, a novel neural architecture designed to see blah blah blah, and then it gives me this. So if I have time, I can read through this, and then I can say, okay, no, actually, you know what I wanted to do? I only wanted to know the progression from the attention paper to the palm paper, right? Can you explain the progression from attention is all you need paper to the pathways language model paper? All right, this is like my personal assistant, right? Personal research assistant. This is going to read these two papers. I want to tell me like, hey, this happened in this paper. From here, you move on to this paper. This Gemini already knows these papers, by the way, because it's in the public domain. But at this thing, I'm also giving the context of, hey, I want the specific here. There you go. So here is the explanation. The progression from attention to that pattern model represents a significant advancements in capabilities and the scale of language models driven by innovation. If you're not able to see, maybe I should increase my font size. Apologize if I didn't do that earlier. All right, from novel architecture to scalable foundation. So the attention all you need paper was about novel architecture. This was about scalability and so on. So this is how it can become like a real personal assistant if you're trying to learn. So in this case, I'm a determined learner, right? If I am determined, I have the tools for this. Now I want to go even further. This is now like, hey, this is.
You have about 2 minutes left.
Too much text. Oh, 2 minutes left. Yep. Okay. So we have a bunch of apps like these in the labs. Okay. And one of the things that I wanted to do was, okay, I'm too lazy for this. I'm going to choose something called, what is this called? I forget the name. There is an app called Illuminate. So what Illuminate is another experimental app where I have these papers and it creates a podcast for me. So I don't think I can play this here and you will not be able to hear because the audio is thing. But what it's done is when you add a document here, it will create a podcast. So if you can use this to listen to this while you're driving, okay? Now going even further, my real true personal assistant is my Google Gemini. So this is a Gemini app, and the way I use it is I have a personal. I always learn Python, right? I program in Python. I can say what are in Python, because Gemini knows Python. In Python, what are function closures? Okay. I looked up online. I couldn't really get an answer, and then I went to Gemini and said, "Hey, okay, this is what function closure is. Okay, it's created when inner function references variables from enclosing scope and inner functions return passing blah blah blah." Now I had a question like, this doesn't look like closure. This looks like opening up, right? So I'm like, okay, that is a question that I had. Wait a minute. The word closure means typically means completing or closing. This seems counter. This does not give me the same feeling. Okay, I'm just, because the closure here usually means, we know what closure means in English. Then I can have a conversation with Gemini and say, hey, you're absolutely right. The concept of programming space can be a bit misleading. And this is a question I can maybe ask a real top tier Python programmer, that person who knows how the closure term came into this programming language and why it's called closure, because it's closing over variables and not because there's a closure that you're finishing up the thing. And this is the kind of personalized tutoring that you can get. This is not tutoring. This is like I'm having a Superman as a companion, right? And if I have a question, I can ask any question, even stupid questions that I might be embarrassed to ask another person, or I might just not be able to find the right person to ask. Like how many people can I ask this question? I don't know. Actually, the people I can ask to are very busy. This is like Superman as an assistant. And all of these tools, like I said before, is available for the determined student. Okay, if a student wants to make progress in a certain aspect, you have all the tools. Use Gemini, but the role of a teacher cannot be replaced.
Any last sentence for wrap up, Pratap?
That was my last sentence. There you
Okay,
go.
cool. All right. You want to switch back, stop sharing so Jarlath can bring the other slide deck up, please. Thank you. And I'm going to just give a few slides here, Jarlath. You can bring my deck up when you get a chance. Appreciate it.
Are you seeing my screen yet?
I'm seeing Google's slide deck from Pratap still. I see your screen. Waiting for the...
Okay, so you want your slides up?
Please.
Fantastic. I'll get to that.
Here's a thought.
Yeah, speaking of Superman.
Look up in the sky. What a great lead in. Thank you, Pratap. So this was our discussion today, and I'm going to just subtitle it, making AI help us avoid being replaced, which is, I think, what Pratap just showed. I mean, he is a super skilled worker. He's the kind of person that uses AI to be able to do a lot more than he could ever do by himself. And that's what I'm going to focus on in terms of the framework and how it connects to education. Next slide, please. So as Pratap said, and others have said, we really want to get to the point where we want to, the equivalent of a human tutor. And, AI tutors aren't there yet. And I've got them. I don't know if I've placed them right, but I do know that the kind of things that was just being shown here and what was being talked about with our robotic friends is that essentially you have to have both together, working together in order to be able to do it effectively. And that's exactly the kind of machines they're building. And in some ways, sort of synchronized mimicry is the way sometimes you teach those machines, by doing it yourself and showing it how to do it, in addition to the other vision systems. So that collaboration between machine and human and is what we're really getting to now, where we're now saying, they're good enough to work with. This can actually make a teammate for me. So instead of thinking just about, well, courseware can be adaptive the way that's being discussed here and shown, but it may need a human to help make it adaptive correctly and adaptive right and adapt it accurately. You may be able to get some tutoring out of it, but a human using it in addition to the way that they help people learn is a much more powerful way to think about this, I think, as yes and not either or. Next slide. So I think top stack, bottom stack, we're really changing the way that we can think about our educational institutions and how it aligns with jobs. On the top half, we've been talking about things like we can index and align all content, as you just saw a demo of. You can organize your content much better. You can generate evidence much quicker, faster. People can store and save their evidence and have it evaluated, or at least indexed, searched, and organized. You can create assessments on both sides. You can create valid items, and you can create automated scoring. I've worked at ETS for 19 years, and that science has advanced a lot in the 19 years, 24 years I've been watching it. And then that assessment then ends up giving you additional evidence, or you might call it proof if you weren't a scientist, but to be able to prove enough that you have a more valid credential to be able to present to the world. And artificial intelligence has helped all the way up that stack. The same way on the bottom, being able to learn effectively using essentially the same kinds of tools and be able to adapt our learning. So on both sides of this, educational institutions can enhance their value, both in being able to present people to the world who have skills and more in-depth, detailed skills that they have better evidence for, and they learn them at a deeper, more meaningful level. Both things are what we all in education have been looking for, and I think we have the opportunity to do this, and both those valid credentials also have more evidence of learning and job fit for the person to present to the world of work so that they can get a more effective job. They can train AI better, they can prove their skills, and there's a better fit. Next slide, please. So this is Jobspeaker's vision that Jonathan and I, and honestly, probably both of us and a bunch of us have been working on for a long time. And that is, we want to be able to know everything that people can learn from, period, full stop. Doesn't matter what form it's in. Talk about multimodal, we want to know exactly what is available to help me learn anything. We want to understand what that's relevant to and ingest it and be able to associate it with whatever learning objectives we have. Transform that into a language of skills so that we can associate it with the world of work, the world of learning, the world of credentialing. Then learn, explain those in the terms of the opportunities, so I can learn as a person, like, well, what does that mean? If I had that skill, what would it mean for me? So give context and meaning to the learner, because that motivates the heck out of people, as we all know. If I know why I'm learning and I can see a benefit for me, if I can get the whiff of what's in it for me, I'm going to be more motivated. Attention is everything in that case, because I'm going to pay attention to stuff that's going to matter to me in the long run. Then be able to evaluate that over long periods of time and be able to say, this set of content, this kind of understanding and associated with skills, this pathway of pursuit led to this kind of result. And we can scorecard those much more effectively than we ever been able to. U.S. News and World Report looks like a Neolith work compared to advanced computing with what we're able to do now. And then transact so that we can connect people together saying, I need this training now. Pratap is talking about, I actually need to know this Python coding thing right now because I'm on a deadline to finish something, as well as to learn things more deeply and over a longer period of time. Next slide. And So I think that we're to try to super skill people, we want to maximize human knowledge, skills, ability, and I would add performance and experiences. So think about that in a more structured way. There are those that are fixed and malleable, those that are innate and learned. Argument about what those are, unclear science about exactly what they are, but let's say there's some spectrum that we're sitting on between those two. And in the middle, we want to try to use these and effectively think about how AI can enhance them and how we will be able to pick the ones that AI cannot do well and enhance that in our thinking about what we're training people to do and be in the world. So if it's applied expertise and it's learned and it's crystallized knowledge, that just means you know it cold, and you can just apply it. And in terms of, I can figure this out, I can explore something and apply, problem solvers. And to measure and develop natural abilities. Well, I want to protect those, the ones that I came with, and I want to enhance and leverage those to do something well. And if I have things that I struggle with, I want to know them. I want to use things that help me overcome this, compensate and mitigate those weaknesses, and figure out ways that they can be complemented by my strengths. I think that's a framework for thinking about super skilling. Next slide, please. So to leverage this in the world of work, it's AI, where can it supplement and supplant? Where is a human hard to replace? Where do we bring on the robots? Because that task is just what a machine can do, and it can do it just fine by itself. And what's the innate talent, practice, and apprenticeship that's required to get so think about routine versus non-routine, cognitive versus physical. This is another framework I'm just giving you to think about this. Complex knowledge, skills, ability, performance, and experiences tend to be up in the top right, and that's where humans shine. Things that are boring drone work in the bottom left, that's where the machines shine. And in between there, I think that's the place where we get the application of people plus machines make the better outcome. Next slide, please. So in my own opinion, to close here, what's most out of whack in this world of education and learning? Well, the Carnegie unit and its linearity, thinking about school in the same Renaissance model. I think you mentioned this in our pre-call, Harriet. The Renaissance model we've been working on for hundreds of years. And then the pension program that ended up giving us the Carnegie unit. The Carnegie unit is a wonderful thing. It gave us all kinds of stability for a long time, but it is now a hindrance in many ways to being able to move on to what we're needing for this. How we hire people we know, we hire people who are like us. We don't use skill-based hiring enough. We can see this opportunity to align better between higher ed and hiring. And there's people that don't want to do that, and others just struggle to see that as their job and role. But I think it is more important now than ever to a lot of people paying for education. And then I think what was said by Mark here, figure out ways to assess people's understanding and knowledge other than written items where plagiarism comes into play, removes the concerns at AI for the good of the majority of faculty instructors. That is where we're trying to really push those, durable skills, 21st century skills, soft skills, whatever, where people are applying things, applying knowledge. They're working with complexity and not working with things that can be cheated on with an AI. And finally, I think we're focused too much, I think, as Harriet and others have said, focus on regulating what was the pre-evidence of learning for before the AI era, and not enough about what the evidence of learning can be in the AI era. And I'll stop there, and we have 5 minutes, 6 minutes for questions. So we'll take the slide to the question slide. I think that's the last slide, Jarlath, yes? And we'll be happy to take your questions. Oh, we'll have a really cool owl there. Okay, so anyone have any questions they'd like to ask any of the panelists, or comments or observations from the discussion today?
I'll ask a question.
Go ahead, Jarlath.
It's my perception, and I'd like the experts on the panel here to kind of qualify this or point out where I'm right or wrong, is that knowledge workers in particular are potentially going to be affected when they can't make this transition. And I'll just leave it at that. What any thoughts or comments on that?
I do, but you hear from me all the time, Darla. So Harriet or anyone else have a comment on that?
Well, I think that, again, it goes toward your attitude, adaptability in terms of adopting the new technology. For those that don't adopt the new technology, eventually they will fail. I can remember when people didn't trust an email, right? No, I want to write a physical memo and, send it to a person. So I think that that's where both internally within our organizations that we need to invest in professional development to teach people how to embrace the technology. And it really does become down to the basic principles of change management. And then with our students, it's to prepare them to have confidence going forward because it's going to continue to change. We are on the cusp of what AI can do for us today. When we think in just a short 5 years or even 10 years, the role of AI and how we do our work, there are things that we cannot even imagine today. And so we have to prepare our students in particular to expect that change is going to be a constant in all of our lives, our working lives, our personal lives. And so how you embrace change, how you manage change, how you master change is really going to give you the competitive advantage for success. And it's the same thing with companies. So I really appreciate some of the industry partners that we're working with right now in advanced manufacturing as we're talking about the role of automation within their companies. And it's just not about going out and purchasing the equipment and putting it on the line. It really is about how they're training their employees, again, to embrace a different way of working.
Really good point. Any just see if there are other questions. If not, others can comment on what Jarlath had to say. Are there any other questions from members of the audience? I did want to ask, I did want to ask, Andrew, could you just say a little more about what you think the kind of training changes that will be needed in areas like advanced manufacturing? Like what would be 3 things you want to make sure someone learns to be ready for the future you described? Have any thoughts on that? I know it's putting you on the spot, but I bet you've thought about it.
I mean, in a way, it's not really answering the question, but hopefully there should be less to learn to interact with these augmented systems, that it should be more accessible for people to take these jobs that with the robots that have some advanced perception capabilities, because you don't need all of this kind of handed down knowledge, kind of tribal knowledge sort of thing of how you get something in exactly the right way for the robot to be able to handle it, because it will be much more flexible. So yeah, I think it will be easier to train people on these more capable robots.
So that strikes me as someone who would understand how to make a process efficient, and understanding how processes work might be advantaged in being able, whereas now maybe they have to be a programmer to do it and they don't have to know as much about process efficiency. Whereas in the future, they might have to understand the actual manufacturing process and how steps are taken to make something so that they could then improve it with the way they work, because they could skip over the programming part and just go right to the doing. Is that what the kind of thing?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. Like letting people kind of explain, and this could use Gemini to a certain extent, like explaining what they want the robot to do in their own terms, and right, not have to learn the scripting language to be able to say, well, I know this process, this manual process very easily, and they can focus on making sure that that is done well, rather than the ins and outs of exactly what the robot is doing and how to make it do every small motion and take it much kind of higher level.
That's great. Got to turn it back to Craig now for our close. I'm sorry, we had a great conversation. Thank you, everybody. Craig, you want to close this wrap up meeting? Please.
Yeah, I would like to just keep going for another hour with all of you. It would be amazing, and you've done an amazing job of condensing all these expertise and different perspectives, which I agree with every one of them, especially the Harriet comments that she makes about where we are. And you, Richard, I'm going to steal your last slide. What's out of whack? Because 3 or 4 of those I say on a regular basis to my members. You know, we are really still working in education, and a lot of times in the 20th century, not where we need to be in the 21st by a long shot. So all in on that, and I'm probably going to use your slide and give you credit. But I want to tell you this, that our conference is coming up in September 25th to 27th at Gateway Technical College. Microsoft, I know, sorry, Google, but we love Google and Microsoft. Microsoft's a platinum sponsor, and they're going to be a keynote focused on AI. And we've also got a panel from IBM and other great people talking about quantum computing, which is that new experiential expansion of computing power that we all going to need for these large learning models and things like that, right? Large language models. So if you haven't registered for that, I want to make sure you know the link is in the chat. And I want to thank Jobspeaker for pulling this great group together, Universal Robots, Google, really appreciate that. And College of the Canyons, Harriet, thank you so much for weaving it all together from your perspective. And I look forward to seeing you all in the future in person. This is a recorded session, so we will be posting it on our website. When you see that in the next couple of days, please share it with your networks and let them see all the great value that came to this webinar in 60 minutes or less. Again, thank you, everyone. Thanks, Charlotte and team. Look forward to seeing you. You bet.
Thank you
Thanks a
all.
lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.